Warning, this podcast typically features spoilers and strong opinions. Proceed with caution.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Two Grooms, One Plot, the podcast where two lifelong storytellers who are married talk about stories. I'm Pavi Prachko, audiobook narrator, author, performer.
And I'm Colin Funk, a childhood development expert and teaching artist.
And today we are going to be talking about Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, the musical.
The musical, specifically.
Yes. But first, let's talk about our moment of the week.
Sure. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Great.
So I've been playing some video games, and one of them was like this old gem from way back when. I don't even know anybody else who played it. It must have been popular enough, though, because the Switch now has it on the emulator. It's called Jet Force Gemini. And it's this really cool, like sci-fi game. It like looks terrible now on the screens, but you're like shooting little bugs and they're trying to like capture all of these like tribal little like teddy bear things and you're trying to save them. It's very cute. But the way the storytelling goes, there's like, there's three of them and you have to like do three of these branches until you meet in the center. I think it's a kind of a clever way to do a game like that because you kind of get this story, it unfolds as you play each of the three characters and then you meet in the center and now suddenly everybody can go everywhere and everybody kind of has like the three of them have different abilities and you can go and re-explore areas. Like there might be water and one of them can dive down deep and so now you can explore all those places and another one can walk through lava.
Okay.
But I got to like the point where we now are together and you get like extra armor and like jetpacks and stuff. And I just remember getting to that point when I played it the first time. Notably, of course, this was 1999, so I was much younger. But it was hard to get there the first time. And this time I got there and I was like, wait, did I get there? Is this it? I did the thing? And it was a moment that I don't remember at all anything about what it looked like.
Okay.
So it was like watching it fresh, even though there's like a lot of memories I have about this game and the story.
Sure. I
I don't remember any of this like cutscene, this like one moment where you just all kind of like converge on the one place. I'm like, did I beat the game? Is this over? No, it's not over. Okay, I didn't do it. Okay. That's my moment.
Cool.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, I went to see some friends of mine in a community theater show this past weekend. It was Something Rotten, which I know you haven't seen, but it is a musical about a writing team that is rivaling Shakespeare during Shakespeare's time, that are like trying to come up with ideas that like compete with him because he keeps like stealing all the thunder essentially. Yeah. And it is essentially a big excuse to make fun of and talk about theater, musicals and Shakespeare, kind of like all in this one. Like it's very silly. It is very nonsensical. It's very fun. I saw it on Broadway. I personally, that the show itself is, I feel a little bit too inside jokey. It feels like too, you have to be a theater person. You have to be in the know.
Yeah.
I'm sure if someone has never seen anything, there's probably still funny moments, but like really so many of the jokes are making fun of something from Shakespeare, something from different musical theater pieces. If you love theater, like it is a riot. It is like it's like packed with jokes. And it is, but silly. So like but in the end, it's like not my favorite I don't know, it doesn't feel as like clever and innovative generally to me. But this is community theater, and it's just like nice to go. Like it's a fun show for community theater. It's like you get a lot of people on stage, and I thought it was done well. I thought like especially the casting. The show has a lot of men in it. You know, you're looking at Shakespeare, this two male writer scenes, and like other big people that are like the movers in Shakespeare, and like Shakespeare has to cast all men in this way, and so there's like a lot of men that are in big roles. There's like maybe 2 bigger women's roles, and in community theater, you're getting mostly women.
Yeah,
tradition. So like some of the casting was just like, of course you're gonna cast women as men. It's just gonna happen. And like Shakespeare was played by a woman, very good. It was like Shylock was also played by a woman. It's again, it just like it worked because like it's community theater. People are just like, these are women playing men, and like they were clearly the best for these roles, and they work just fine. It's like funny how sometimes in community theater, these things that feel like a bigger deal, like, ooh, we're doing a gender role reversal. Like, it's like, this woman just has to play a man because we have women. Because
we just have women, and they were the best option.
And they were the best.
They were actually the best option. Yeah.
And so that's great. I'm friends with some of the people in the show, but I'm also friends with the director of the show. Shout out to Tommy Novak, who is who's done a lot of directing in Chicago, around Chicago, some regional stuff too. He's done a whole bunch. I think he's pretty solid as a director generally. And I thought, like, along with the casting choices, he just made some other, like, along the same lines. There was one character who is originally, it's like one of the female characters' father. There's like this Puritan group that are like very anti-poetry, anti-theater, anti-art, whatever. And so she's trying to get the daughter is interested in one, like falls in love. She loves poetry, and very star-crossed lovery. Lots of references to. Her name's Portia. They're all Shakespeare names.
Yes.
But her father is like this, like policing the town and her actions. But like it's supposed to be like a secretly like gay character. It's like, I am this buttoned up religious character who's secretly gay. Another like classic trope.
Sure.
But they, instead of like having that be a man doing it, or like a woman playing a man being a closeted gay man, like that's like they just had it be her mother.
Oh.
And instead of being like a closeted gay person, it's a closeted like nymphomaniac, ultra like sexual person. And I had seen it. I saw it on Broadway a number of years back. So it's been a while, but like I watched it, and it didn't even dawn on me that was a switch, because it worked so seamlessly, and it like added kind of like this interesting female power. Yeah. That there's another character who's like pretending to be a man to like get work, essentially. And so to like have this like ultra sexual woman be like a powerful character, I thought was like very like a good choice, not just in like, I'm like, does that work better than the original?
Maybe this should have just been in the original.
Yeah. And I thought it worked so well that like I didn't even notice. Like I was talking to him afterward, and he's like, what did you think of this? And I was like, oh, I literally didn't even notice. I thought it worked really well.
Yeah.
So I think just like that I think that was just like a testament to how casting just makes such a big difference.
Yeah.
Especially when you're like at a community level, when you don't necessarily have so many people to choose from, like
the staffing,
because it's like it's community people doing it for fun,
right?
And you don't necessarily get perfect people for each role. So it's like the puzzle of casting, especially in those situations, makes an even bigger difference.
Yeah,
and I thought it was done really well.
Nice.
That's my moment.
That's interesting. I like that. Great. Let's move on to our
Switch hit
the
synopsis.
show, the Switch Hit synopsis
Yeah.
for Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, the musical.
The musical. So,
at Goodman Theater. It's pre-Broadway.
yes, it's the new Jason Robert Brown musical.
Big deal.
Music.
Yeah.
Jason Robert Brown, book by Taylor Mack,
Mm-hmm.
which we'll go into.
We'll go into
in a
those.
bit.
It's really interesting. But Jason
I have to
Robert
do some
Brown,
research.
for reference, says last 5 years, Parade, Bridges of Madison County, Songs for a New World. If you were a musical theater kid in the 2000s, you know like every word to at least 3 of those.
yes. That was like, he was like the big name
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in like the 2010s, especially. Like
Yes.
like those, like late 2000s, early 2010s. Like he was like one of the big names.
Yeah.
That everyone was like, but they were like, don't sing it because it's too complicated.
It's too complicated. It's too hard to play.
For piano players.
Piano players. At this point, it's like everybody should know them if you're a piano player. So
Yeah. So most of it's probably
fine. But
he was like the
so
Sondheim
interesting.
because he was like the
yes.
Anyway, so synopsis.
So
I'll start by like just mentioning that this is based on a movie, which was based on a book, which is based on real life.
Right.
So there's like a few levels of
separation, I guess, or it's like we're zooming out a little.
Right.
We're zooming in.
But they start the show framing just breaking the fourth wall. Well, okay. No, anyway, it doesn't start there.
No.
Because it starts
with the voodoo
priestess.
Like conjuring ghosts,
I don't know if conjuring or saying
giving
a prayer or like, or just like, I don't like
honoring them, maybe honoring the dead. Not sure
exactly what they were.
Evocative, however.
Yes, but like setting the tone. Getting into an opening number where a character comes on and starts talking directly to the audience.
Yes,
and casts the audience as the writer.
The writer. Mm-hmm.
So like immediately the musical is set up as the story on the stage and we are being a part
in it. We're like experiencing it somehow.
So it's like
we're in the room.
It's as if the story is being observed and created at the same time.
Yeah.
But they set up this. It is a town in Georgia.
It's Savannah. It's just Savannah, Georgia.
That's right.
Yeah,
Savannah.
it's just Savannah.
It's in Savannah, and
historic
it is
Savannah.
Set as like there's a whole bunch of people with a whole bunch of stories in Savannah.
Mm-hmm. And it's Reagan era, which becomes important contextually because you start learning about all these people's pasts and secrets, and so basically he's like it's a culture of like restoration people. They're like preservationists of all the history in Savannah.
Right. It seems like there's some tension between the historical society of Savannah and this like independent restorer named Jim.
I wrote it down. Jim. Did I write it down?
I did somewhere.
Well,
maybe I did.
It's like Jim Wilson or Williams. Jim Williams. So
yes,
Jim Williams, and he's like new money has come, and he's like buying up and restoring all this particular old house that he now lives in.
Right.
And it's like this affront to the historical society, who are like, they're seventh generation, Georgians.
Right. So there's essentially like with the historical society is like played by this like group of women. Then we have Jim Williams, and so there's a Christmas party that Jim Williams throws every year. That's like the talk of the town,
right?
That the head of the historical society, played by Sierra Boggess,
yes,
of Milligan.
Yes, Milligan fame and Little Mermaid.
On
Broadway.
Christine Daae many times in many shows. But she's head of that society, ends up bragging about going to the White House.
Yeah, as a preservationist, as like a restoration person.
Gets invited to the White House, and Jim is like, don't love that. You're uninvited to my party.
Yeah.
And so there is like this tension between like, well, this is the this is the event to be seen at.
Right.
So now there is she has like a little bit of
She's got a bone to pick with him. And so she like
because she's like, it's clearly like the social status is
right,
important.
Right. And it's like, and like the warfare is all social warfare here.
Yes.
So then we've got like during her meeting at the White House, she's able to get in with a director who wants to do a civil war from the perspective of a movie from the perspective of the Confederacy, and he wants to set it in Savannah. And she says, absolutely, come on.
And film it. Do it on this
day, which happens to be the day of the Christmas party, and we'll get everybody to be in it, which means nobody can go to the party.
So that storyline's happening.
Yes.
So there's multiple storylines going on. We said, we cast a cast of characters at the beginning with like different little storylines and plots.
Right.
We're also seeing Jim Williams with his assistant.
Yes. Danny. And they are, he's like this very attractive young man that lives there. He's kind of like, Jim finds like these vagrants or something, like people who are kind of down on their luck.
Sure.
And brings them in and gives them a job and has them live with him.
So he's like, he's doing restoration on people. Just like he's doing restoration on architecture and stuff.
But turns out there's also like the rumor going around that ends up getting confirmed somehow, which is a little weird.
You're getting ahead of yourself.
But it's like they're like, he's very attractive, but there's like, they do talk about how he's like a regular old Florence Nightingale, which is like
they started
a really like it's a really subtle suggestion that he is gay.
Not that subtle.
Not subtle, but it's
very clear.
It's very clear, but nobody says it out loud.
Yes, it's one of those like out loud secrets.
Yes,
where it's like
very southern.
They're talking to the audience, but like clearly like the audience, like the town knows that Jim Parsons is a gay man.
Right.
This older gay gentleman.
His name Parsons?
Jim Williams. Did I just say
Jim? Yeah, Jim Williams is an older gay man. Yeah, you said Parsons.
Jim Parsons is a gay man.
Oh, who is that?
Big Bang Theory.
His name's Jim?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's funny. Jim Williams is who we're talking about. Not Parsons.
Jim Parson?
Jim Williams. They know that Jim Williams is like an older gay man.
Yes.
Okay.
And like the rumor is that like this like very attractive younger man and him are like maybe lovers. But, you know, that's like very tropey, like old gay man with younger protege and like who knows what the relationship is.
Sure. And the kid is like really very has a temper, and he's a bit of
got a temper. He's rough around the edges.
Bit of a asocial kind of, or antisocial derelict.
So he's like kind of taking care of him and trying to like rein this kid in.
Yeah.
Because he wants to like go out and party and gets mad and runs away, like, and is like trying to find a woman to marry him. He's like on the hunt for a woman to marry him, like as soon as possible. So it's like dating around. So that's happening.
Yeah.
Also, totally separate storyline is Lady Chablis.
The Lady Chablis.
The Lady Chablis.
Yes.
Who is a nightclub performer at the Shack.
The Shed.
The Shed?
The Shed. Yes.
The Shed.
The Shed.
Okay.
And a drag performer.
A drag performer at the
Shed.
The Shed. Clearly like a little bit of an underground queer scene happening. And it ends up getting into a fight with the club owner because she kisses
Danny. Yeah, during a show, because he goes out with
just like as part of the performance. It's like, you know, like drag queens.
And the guy's like, the manager's like, you can't be kissing white boys because they don't like black on white romances. You can't do that.
You got to tone yourself down. And she's like, great, that means I'm out of here.
I'm out.
I'm not letting anyone, you know,
tone me down.
Tone me down.
Yeah,
I'm getting out of here.
Yes.
So that's happening. At the same time, Lady Chablis runs into this young debutante named
Clavel. Yes.
And she's like, oh, you're doing this like debutante ball? I'll come by. I love a ball. And Corinne's like,
please don't.
You are this young like black debutante.
Yes.
Specifically.
Yes. Right.
And Lady Chablis is like, I'm going to anyway. Crashes this debutante ball and makes like a spectacle.
Yeah, makes kind of a scene. Yeah.
And I think that's all the storylines.
Yeah.
There might be like little things here and there. But that's like up to Act 1. So Act 1 gets to a point.
Yeah, where basically Lady Chablis is like ousted. She's like, I gotta get out of here, and decides to leave.
She's gonna leave town.
The Christmas party is interrupted by this, or thwarted by this movie. And then Danny is out and about.
So he's been dating this girl.
And
gets into a big fight with her.
Yeah.
Because she's like, I don't want to get married.
You.
Also, like, aren't you into Jim Williams?
Right. Yeah. Jim Williams. And he's like, what? And so he goes home to Jim, like, and they have this big blow up fight. And something happens. There's a lot of gunshots.
There's some gunshots.
Because there's a lot of guns. Jim has a lot of guns all over the house.
And Danny pulls a gun. On Jim. And then, it's like, I'm going to fuck up your home, and then I'm going to fuck you up. Like,
right,
it's like, like, I'm going to just destroy everything and then kill you.
And then there's a bunch of gunshots, and we see that Jim has survived, and he has
shot and killed Danny. So that's the end of Act 1.
Act 1. Boom. Okay.
Act 2.
Yes.
Let's.
Oof. Okay. Lady Chablis ends up going on to like the opening of it. She's going on this tour, and she's like, coming back home. And meanwhile, Jim, there's like it's been a year now, and he's gonna like host this Christmas party again, and everybody wants to go because he is on trial.
Yes, he's still awaiting his trial.
He's awaiting his trial for the murder of
Danny.
And
they're like the society ladies are like, we want to go to this party so we can get some evidence, but also spread little rumors and get like public opinion.
Get the public opinion,
because they're like, you know, most people would be like, well, he killed a gay guy. Oh, so like we've also like essentially confirmed that like
they were having a relationship.
At least that Danny is a closeted gay man, and is like really struggling with those feelings, which is why he's like kind of a dick and off the rails a little bit, because he's like that's why he's trying to find women.
Yeah.
But like these women were like, well, no one cares if they kill a gay man, but it was a gay man who killed a gay man, so it even like,
now we get to decide what kind of town we live in.
So it's like
really blah.
And so they're like spreading these little like, they're trying to like
turn
the town on him.
And it works. He's found guilty.
So he's found guilty. His lawyer's like got to appeal while they do a little voodoo.
Yeah, they're doing so we see the voodoo priestess again, but now it's like we're actually like we're squaring the circle there.
Repairing this relationship between
him and
Danny,
dead Danny
from the grave.
Yeah.
While that's happening, appeals are happening. He's trying to he's doing his restoration work from jail.
Yeah.
What's the character's name? The Sierra Boggess character.
Oh my gosh.
Society lady.
I don't remember
her now.
Society lady. Yeah, there's so many characters.
Goes to visit him in jail and is like, I'll buy your house. And he's like, absolutely not. Yeah. I would rather it like become a drug rehabilitation.
I'm going to turn into a drug rehab center.
So you better hope that I get out of here. And she's like, ooh, and horrible. And so that's happening. All the while, Corinne is trying to start a business,
but isn't able to get any loans. Like nobody wants to give a black woman any money to start,
unless she goes out of the city to the black city to like a black area to start a fast food restaurant.
Yeah, to Rock.
Like that's
Rock
the only
City,
thing that
something. Rock City, Rock something. But yeah, and she's like, I don't want to have a fast food. I want to open a macaron shop.
Open macaron. Yes.
In Savannah.
And nobody will give her a job, and so she has this like realization, like the way she treated Lady Chablis, is the way she's being treated,
and so now she has this whole come to Jesus moment. And Lady Chablis, meanwhile, wants to start her business too because she's returned. the shed has closed because it was boring after she had left.
Right.
And so she decides she wants to open it back up, and she's
a white girl.
A white girl.
And that black girl.
And the black girl.
Who's a debutante with a head for business.
Yeah, the head for business. And she kind of collects all these people together to create this new club.
And that's happening during these appeals. We find out that he's
found not guilty.
But then, like, once that happens, he's like, I'm still kind of unhappy. And essentially, like,
Danny's ghost is like, haunting him.
Hey, it's okay. I think you just want to die.
Yeah.
And
so he ends up basically, like, it's kind of suggesting voodoo-wise that it's like, there's a debt to be paid anyway. So yes, you repaired your relationship. Yes, you're found not guilty. But then he basically dies of a heart attack.
He dies of a heart attack. We think he does.
Yeah, he just dies.
We don't know how he dies.
Some kind of natural causes.
Yeah, it's all very symbolic.
Yeah.
Watching him die. But we see Lady Chablis gathers her people, is able to open this place, and the society ladies are kind of just like doing their own thing at this point.
Right.
And then we like kind of end the show with Lady Chablis like turning back towards us and is essentially like making the story about us again.
Yeah.
And does this sort of like ritual as a full theater.
Yeah, really powerful moment, actually.
Yeah, which we don't even have to like really discuss in detail. So like this is one time we won't give you spoilers.
And it's interesting because the whole time too, it's like at the end, of course, she turns back and she's like, hey, author, you got a great story out of this. But like the whole time they've been revisiting us as the author.
Right. Throughout.
So through the whole thing, we're kind of almost like in the room wherever they are, ostensibly taking notes for our book that we're going to publish.
Right. So that's the story.
That is the story.
That's like all the little...
Yes, the details, ins and outs.
Most of the details of the plots. There might be other little things that we're missing, but essentially like it was obviously difficult and a lot to talk about because there's so many little strings of
stuff going on, and it's an ensemble show with like a dual storyline that is happening simultaneously without
like many. It's not like
they don't. Yeah, but it's like the two. I would say the two main ones that have their kind of like those are the two branch, and they have offshoots that intersect, but they themselves don't really intersect story-wise.
Right.
Like we see them together at the beginning because they like introduce the show to us.
They do. They get together a couple times not in plot.
No, not in plot, but on stage they are together. But we like,
in the show they get together.
Yes, in the show they tell a bit of the story.
Fourth wall broken.
Right.
Talking to narrator.
Yes, that's the only time they really are together.
I think that is
because otherwise they are just two people going through their things with all of like the minor characters around them shared.
Okay. So,
cool.
With that being said,
yes.
Initial response to the story.
Okay. I knew nothing about it, even though this is a movie. I believe it was at least up for a bunch of Oscars, one of
it was, I think.
So I knew nothing about it.
Neither of us did.
And it reads like a novel. Like it feels like a I don't know, it feels like kind of a true crime novel a little bit, where you're having these like, you have this true crime story, and then you've got the Devil in the White City, and then you've got Burnham, the storyline that is kind of happening at the same time.
Right.
It feels very much like that,
where we like pair like the true crime with another engaging woven in story that's related. Like they
complement each other.
Right.
So
and inform each other in terms of like theme and a lot of other things.
And I think the story works really well as far as its like points go.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the simultaneous stories, even though, and I especially like that they don't actually intersect story-wise, and we're just seeing how they complement each other. because it forces us to look at them and decide what the similarities are between these two protagonists, because they are vastly different on their face, and so we're forced to kind of explore what's actually happening deeper, because they wouldn't be in the same story if it wasn't the same issue that they're dealing with. And so determining what that issue is really interesting.
Yes. In terms of that story, I guess, like, I'm curious. I guess there was a lot of confusion leaving it. Not like I'm confused about what happened. I'm confused about choices, and I'm confused about like, I don't think I'm unclear about the main story. Like, I know, like, if I'm looking at it, I would say, like, oh, it seems like the main story would be the Jim Williams story.
Yeah.
And the other one was like, of course, like, I know they're dual stories, but they like...
You feel like there's one that is... If you were to tell me the plot of Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, you would talk about the murder.
That's a little bit more streamlined. Yes, I would think so.
And you would kind of leave Chablis out altogether.
Right. If you were trying to be as streamlined as possible,
yes,
you could leave Lady Chablis out.
Right.
There's something about the way they're heightening that character and heightening the and like really using them that like I think it muddies at least the like plot clarity. I
agree with you. I would say that's the reason I don't bring that up in the question about whether the story works is because
that's more reaction to the story and the plot. Like you walk out, what do you feel about the story? Yeah. That is what I'm asking about.
Yeah. It's
not about what you can deduce about the plot.
Well, and I like the dual plot, and I think that I agree that it muddies it because we have the main story is the Jim story, and it ends up unbalanced because we start with him, and then Lady Chablis, we kind of end with Lady Chablis. And so we're like, okay, this is Jim's story, and it ends up being Lady Chablis' story. And we never like reconcile that quite.
And I guess
and she is so much more charismatic than him, and we see more of her. We feel more in touch with her. So when we just end up relating to that character more, and unfortunately, that story is a lot less interesting, I guess. There's like less kind of happens in it. And so it's like we have this it's unbalanced with a dual storyline that's supposed to be about him.
I'm just looking up the actor.
Oh, something Gee.
J. Harrison Gee.
Yeah. Excellent.
Who, first non-binary Tony Award winner, I believe, for Some Like It Hot. At the most recent Tonys, I believe. And it is very clear why.
Yeah. Excellent.
That, like, they have so much stage presence, they could have just sat on the edge of the stage
the whole time
telling the story, and they didn't need anything else, and it could have been a fine show.
It was like incredible.
They are that like engaging every time they were on, like not in a like a I'm showy, I'm stealing the scene. Like
just
clearly like
gravity. There's like it just is like pulls your attention,
like just on them. And I'm like, they are brilliant.
Yeah.
And I would watch them do anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it. It's like you have this really strong performer who is just like, you just are so gravitated. And like, if you want to do a ritual at the end, you're gonna have this like insanely charismatic person do it. And like, it feels like Lady Chablis is like the heart of it. Like not the like the meat and the bones, but like the spirit of the story.
Yeah.
And they really, and that here's the thing. It's like, even with the muddiness of it, there is something really interesting about the things they're trying to accomplish with this piece. It is not just we're telling a story and we're telling it in a normal plot structure and calling it a day.
Right.
We're
getting the audience involved. We're like, putting the audience into the story
for a very specific reason.
Yeah.
I guess like it feels to me for like the first time in a while that like, even though I would say like, I just hope in general, always when I'm seeing Broadway previews, that they like are actually taking it as a Broadway preview and like
making adjustments,
updating things and making adjustments. And I do think this could use some. This could use some clarification. This could use some. Like I think the show could be a little longer, and I never say that.
There's like something's missing out of it.
There's things that like feel like cut short, off, and I'm like, I actually like want a little bit more of this, and I want a little bit more of this, and I think like the thing is like, I want to talk about a couple moments that I'm like, I think they actually did this really well in streamlining and being like, we actually don't need this, this, and this to get from here to here.
Right.
We actually can just do it with these. We get to get a full arc with just 3 little scenes. Yeah. I think they do, like I will say, like the Corinne story, I think is actually like beautifully streamlined. And then I'm like, I know all of it. Yeah. I know all of it, and I don't think I necessarily need more. I could use a little bit more because I'm interested. I'm
interested in caring a little bit more about Laval, which is something that I didn't, like it was a little bit of like, a blip.
Almost like, but like why? Like why not leave an audience wanting more? Why not leave an audience like being like, I think there is something that I can care about with her. Like it like inspires that without like doing it. Yeah. Which I don't know. This is a show that has me like questioning some of the things that sometimes I'm annoyed by. Yeah. And I'm like, I like the way it's streamlined, but I'm not opposed to that changing. Yeah. Which is like, it's tricky there. This is where the trickiness, a musical is very hard.
It is very hard.
It's very difficult because there's so many moving pieces. And I do believe you need to workshop it, get it on its feet, and do it a bunch of times. Yeah. Before it actually becomes its full thing. It doesn't become final until you do that piece. Right.
I think part of it is like it's hit in some of the cases kind of an in-between place where
I agree.
It has not given us enough or has given us too much, depending on what you want to do.
Giving us
because it's like for the Corinne storyline, for example, I think that's a great example because I was found thinking I either need more of her or I need less of her. I either need her not to have the song that gives us every single thing she's thinking about, how she's like, oh, what did I do to that poor drag queen at my thing?
And I kind of want to talk about the music separately.
I do
because like, yes.
But just like generally to see her, like I didn't need to see her have her own soliloquy about that if I wasn't going to see more of her otherwise. If all I was going to see was her at the debutante ball and then her kind of like, we experience her somehow having difficulty with, somehow we find out that she's been having difficulty getting alone. Yeah. And then finding Chablis, but having kind of this like really big scene with her in the middle is like too much if there's not more.
Yes.
Like that was too much unless you show us more of that story.
Okay. I want to stay here, but I want to kind of pause. Yeah. Just to like inject. So we did like a tiny bit of research on Taylor Mac.
Yes.
And I think this,
let's give us some context.
Contextualizes it, which like I will just like put a little bit, like a little aside. That's like, I absolutely believe you shouldn't have to do any research to go see any show. You should be able to sit down and enjoy it.
Yes.
So like saying like, well, I understand because I contextualize it. I understand like personally, like I don't actually think
that should not be necessary. That said.
That aside, researching Taylor Mac and like, I guess I don't know I don't know their gender identity.
Sure.
So, but like they're a performer and writer and just like a performance artist. Yeah. Generally, and they're like just a creator. Yeah. And the thing is, they have done quite a bit, and I was not familiar with any of their body of work. So
I have never heard of them before.
Researching what is important to them and what they care about, like really did at least make me understand what they were trying to do.
Right.
Specifically, like having, like being a collagist in performance.
Yeah.
Like that is something interesting. It's like taking things in the real world, especially like queer stories, and like finding a way to like turn things on their head, make us like really think about things, and like doing so by like bringing a bunch of different elements together.
Yeah. Because like this, it's like drag and musical and play and dance and just like TED Talk conversations. Like it's like a lot of things happening.
Yeah. Yes, but like, and like once like seeing the word collage in there,
and I was like, oh, that's what they were trying to do.
Yeah, because like, and to be fair, I literally just went to a collage workshop at Soho House. But like so like, you know,
Soho House.
But like, I'm already in that kind of like, ooh, artistic, like this is clearly a little bit higher level art. That is like heady. A little bit, it's a little heady.
Yeah.
And which like in general, especially with a show on stage, like I'm like, if I don't like it, then the headiness
doesn't matter.
The thing is, like, I kind of enjoyed
a lot of it. Yeah.
And the choice to end with Lady Chablis, I was like, so many other things could have happened, and I'm leaving with like
a full
totally
heart,
different feeling.
Yeah.
Like my spirits are high. If I have a full heart, I'm like, I feel good. I feel like, but it like, and it makes me actually question and ask, and it's not, it doesn't feel like it's for nothing, because it feels like, even being a little bit confused and muddy, I still was picking out like the themes and the things that they wanted to talk about. There's clearly so much like queer identity, especially in the South.
Yes.
There is so much like it's a little bit political, but a little bit like ideological, where it's like
and traditionalists
ideals versus morals.
Yeah.
Like these people that are like, our traditions and our ideals sometimes trump our ethics and our morals.
Yeah.
Like they do, I mean, they like literally say it.
They say that.
There is a couple of moments in the show that I'm like, this is a little on the nose.
Yeah.
And I'm like, part of that's like for, it's snappy.
Clarity. Yeah.
It's
like we've gone on long enough. We need to do it. Yeah.
But sometimes I'm like, okay, like we know that and I think there does need to be an element of just like spoon feeding when you're being heady. Like you should let the audience in.
Yeah.
And there were just moments where I feel like it like went like very far.
Yeah.
Like
the pendulum swung just a touch. And it's sometimes even for comedy's sake, there's a little bit of a kind of Greek chorus in the historical society where it's like those ladies are like, they come off as a little bit like silly and vapid, but they're the ones that are basically telling us those inward thoughts outwardly. It's like,
yes.
And I think there's something effective about that, and it can be very funny, but sometimes it does ended up being a little bit too much. It's just like a little too far.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have so many like there's so much to like talk about and think about with this show, which I think is like really brilliant. But with all that in context, just like this collage-y feeling, this like feeling like we're like putting a bunch of different elements, but like having very specific, I don't want to say political statement, because I don't think it's like a directly political statement, even though there's elements of political statement in it. But there are very clear messages and themes.
Yeah.
And I think like not just queer identity, but like Black identity and the tension between queerness and Blackness. And in the South, especially.
Yes.
Like this is like, that's very clear, very poignant throughout the show.
Yeah.
And to take we do need a strong, like if we're looking at like queer experience,
Yeah.
Black queer experience,
Chablis.
Lady Chablis,
Mm-hmm.
we kind of need what's the Black
Yes.
female non-queer experience?
Yeah.
And how does that create tension?
Yeah.
And so to have like, the big moment between them is like weird story-wise, like it's like a lot, but it's like, it's actually one of the big, that tension is just like a piece of the bigger message.
Yeah.
Which it's like, it like plot-wise, I think maybe is part of the muddying.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like a message-driven rather than plot-driven show.
Sure.
Again, and I'm not talking about like the success of whether or not I think they do
No,
it,
that
whatever.
makes sense.
I'm just saying,
And
like I like that
and it's not that I-
contextualizes that, like why they're doing that, and like I guess like to my point earlier, like I hope that they're still working on it. I want to see those things break the rules and work.
Yeah.
And I do, like, for the most part, I think they're actually kind of close.
Yeah.
Which, like, I think it's like a lot of people can go and be like, I think I liked that.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to, like, rub people the wrong way politically. I think it's very,
Yeah.
it feels like anyone who is very, like, cares very strongly, especially, like, I know, like, theater does this a lot, but it's like, I'm always like, I feel like they're really putting Southerners, like white Southerners, white right-wing Southerners, like on blast in a way that there's like very little redeeming about these characters.
Right.
And that to say, I think they are well-rounded. I think they're
real people.
They're real people, and they do like...
We just don't get to see anybody else.
Right.
And there's something that they're objects of desire a little bit. Just put them on the side of not the way we wanted to do it.
It was like moments, I think some of the most on the head moments were like, we are Southern and we have these uncomfortable opinions.
Yes.
That they're very direct about.
Yeah.
And they say it sweetly with a smile.
Yeah.
Which I think is like very interesting.
Yeah.
And tells a point. But there's like the moment that like really, like I feel like it gets on the nails on the head, and maybe I don't know if it's, well, I don't want to save it necessarily for whatever.
Sure.
But like I do want to talk about it, so I'll talk about it now. If I bring it up later,
Yeah.
it's fine. But like they have a song at which, like in the second act, where they're like, Jim is like, oh, you got to give me the benefit of the doubt. You're like, it's a reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
Which is like, cornerstone of justice. Like I always go back to that in my head. I'm like, this needs to be, reasonable doubt needs to be really focused on always.
Right.
And this song essentially is setting up like, oh, you get the reasonable doubt unless we don't want you to.
Mm.
And like, it's pretty clear that they're like, that's what they're saying throughout. But there's a moment in which they're like, you should have the reasonable doubt unless
we
you are
don't
like
like
this,
you.
or like this, or like this, or like this.
Yeah, it was
or like
really
this. And I'm like,
obvious.
oh, it is just, we know. Like it was like a moment where I'm like, we get it.
I think that speaks to a lot of moments in the show where we see sometimes, especially in the music, and that it usually happened in the music, that it was
that's why I was talking earlier.
Too much in the heads of these people. And I particularly, I think, have a problem with this because if I am cast as the writer who's going to come and do this true crime book about the people in Savannah, if as an audience member, I am the author character in this world and I'm a fly on the wall, they are showing me a lot that they probably wouldn't be so comfortable showing an author. And it'd be something that I would have to deduce. I would have to
I don't mind
infer
it being so obvious.
No,
like it's like the
but
Florence Nightingale moment. I was like, absolutely,
is very obvious, but it's
because
not,
if they had leaned over and it's like, he's gay. Like if they had done that, I would have been like,
yeah,
well,
I know. That's what you
you're
mean.
saying.
Yes. And it was like everything about that song you were talking about was fine. The benefit of the doubt was fine until it got to that point where then suddenly they were just like in weird,
a little sinister,
in weird like 525,600 minutes like down spots, and and they were like suddenly listing off all of like the things that made you persona non grata. And I was like, yeah, we know. We got that already from the song, and now you're giving it to us.
You kind of like...
You just undermined how you would have done it in Savannah. Like it was so Savannah. It's so Southern. It's so like obvious, but not obvious. I thought
that song... And okay, so I will say too, music in general felt a little all over the place in a way, and I don't think the songs were as strong as the book.
Agreed.
And first of all, I couldn't quite... Like, I get it, it's collage, but like, give me some through line, please.
Yeah.
Give me something to tie the pieces together.
Yeah.
It's like similar to my frustration with Hamilton. I'm like, I get it.
There's just so many things.
There's too many different styles of music.
Yeah.
And I get that we're like getting little pieces of there's very different cultures coming together.
Yeah.
And I guess like I got mostly confused when it felt like a decade passed.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel that? Was there like a weird, there was like that in that year between, I feel like it was like, now we're really 80s.
Yeah.
Now we're like really, like we were a little bit outside of time before. And now we're like, look, we're in the 80s. And I'm like, what is that? That confused me. It's like, I was like, wait a minute, are you telling me that like a decade passed? Because at first I was like, are we now in the early 90s?
Yeah.
Because there was like a moment of like with the costumes and the vocal styles, like they changed at one point. Like they're very 80s outfits to like the Christmas party.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this seems like a departure. Like we were like made a hard switch.
Yeah.
What are you telling me about the passage of time? That confused me.
Yeah. Well, I think there was like there weren't a whole lot of opportunities earlier, I guess, to show us that.
Yeah, but I suppose,
and so then
like
once you like come in, like the society women actually, instead of just wearing like antebellum outfits, because that's like the first time we see them kind of, other than when
they're wearing
just, like,
kind of like they're like very conservative long Southern gowns that are just like, probably 80s-y.
Yeah.
But like, then we go to that Christmas party the next year, and they're wearing
completely
like,
different.
The big shoulders.
Yeah.
Like it looks like a little bit almost like cliche 80s.
Yeah, I'm
costuming.
not sure
and
what
then,
happened.
Like, there's like a bunch of people walking around in neon jackets and
right, because like at first they're like all dressed as Nancy Reagan, and then suddenly they're all dressed like Cyndi Lauper. It's like it has this weird switch that happens.
And that piece again, like. This is where like the confusing pieces of it come in, where I'm like, this is where collage gets confusing.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I clearly noticed these very drastic shifts, and I think it's supposed to say something, but I don't know what
you're telling me. Yeah.
Like even now, after like kind of stewing on it, I'm like, I was actually just confused about like how much time had passed.
Yeah.
That like actually confused me. I was like, you're telling me that maybe we're in a different decade.
Right.
Like maybe we popped into... Like Reagan was 80s, right?
Reagan was 80s and then like 90.
Okay. I was like, am I forgetting? Was he like a little bit 70s into 80s, or we're like seeing a decade shift there? But like,
no, it was 80s.
I think it was 80s, right? Like into at the end.
Yeah.
The end. I mean,
because then.
But like really, like a year passes, right? Maybe a little bit more with the appeal, but like from. Like first act to second act, essentially a year passes.
Yes. Yeah.
So like,
it shouldn't be such a huge drastic shift. It feels like human error. It feels confusing. It's like, and maybe they weren't saying anything with it, and it's like
they do it. They like had a little bit of like a very Boys to Men sound.
Yeah.
Second act too, like one of the songs did.
Yeah.
And I was like, I get it, but also like I'm not. Why?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you're telling. Like, I think the musical styles being so different is
Jason Robert
interesting.
Brown was experimenting with a lot of pop music.
Some pop music, but some
disco.
Ragtime, like
and ragtime.
really traditional,
yes, very
ragtime,
traditional rag.
some like jazz, but then like jazz into like perform. Like
Yeah.
he was kind of all over the
all
place.
over the place.
And sometimes I thought it was interesting and it worked, but I'm missing some sort of
Yeah.
through line, and so much that like because it was bouncing around, there were songs that I'm like, I actually think that feels hokey.
Yeah.
When it's like there is an element of like camp.
Yeah.
But some of the music didn't really land for me. Some of the music was boring. Some of the songs I'm just like, that's a boring song.
There's just I found myself thinking travesty. I found myself thinking there's too much music.
Absolutely.
There's too much music.
Which is a shame.
Yeah.
Like it just needs to be better. Because I think it like is a great musical.
Yeah.
I think it's
it's a good opportunity for a musical. I think they did it well. It just especially if the only opportunities that you're taking to give us more music is to show us those inner thoughts, it really doesn't vibe with the narrative device.
That is I was really frustrated by the lack of active songs.
Yeah.
Where two people were interacting with each other, where it wasn't just like soliloquy after soliloquy in song form.
Yeah.
Which, if you're being so casual with us, it shouldn't feel like just soliloquy after soliloquy.
Right.
Either like really make us the other, like really make us feel like it's a dialogue with us.
Yeah.
And
you would hide things from someone, from a person. You would hide
who's
things
writing a book about you.
Yes. And that doesn't mean, like you say, it doesn't mean you can't be like obvious with your what you're withholding.
Sometimes,
but
yes,
you need tact.
But I also sometimes people do just like come out and say the thing.
Yeah, sometimes they do.
You can that's not like nothing.
It's not a rule.
Cloaked in mystery.
No.
It's just like
it became very, very clear when we were in people's heads. When we're watching Jim watch Danny fix the chandelier and he's like singing about how he would have been perfect. He'd be perfect if he was just this thing. And I'm like,
that was unclear if he was like talking to him or us.
Same.
Don't know.
I was like,
still don't know.
Are you singing to him? And first I was like, is Danny frozen? No, he's not frozen. I thought maybe he was frozen.
I feel like he like responded to one thing at one point.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is he responding or is he just saying
saying things and we're just like watching Jim's thoughts? And I just really did not like that. And I wanted him to be talking to us. Let me in the room.
I honestly really don't love that in musical theater where like something happens and then like something happens in slow-mo in the background while that person is like singing their inner thoughts. It like I'm just like I don't like that.
No.
I don't think it's ever interesting. If there's another person in the room with you,
talk. Let's show us through that relationship what's going on.
The thing that is giving you that emotional response, I want to see the thing that like triggers you as the song.
Yes.
I don't want to see your inner like boo-hoo moment.
Yeah.
Because it's like it really pulls me out. Let us see an emotional interaction happen. Let that be a song. Because like you can do you can tell us everything we need to know within the interaction.
Yeah.
Just like you wouldn't even in a book, even when you're so in someone's head in a book. They're not like there wasn't like a big fight and then after the person like thinks about the fight for 3 pages. Like we're getting the reflection during the fight.
Right.
We're getting their thoughts while it's happening.
Right.
We don't want like oh, well, that just happened. Here's what I thought about it. I just think it's really uninteresting.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I don't love that just like as a trope in musical theater. If it's like something happened and like they're finally like in their private space, like this is your time to process it, fine. But
yeah, but even that would happen.
This is a thought that has occurred to him for like, this is not a new thought.
No.
Not an interesting song, just generally.
No.
I like,
it was bad.
If you can take it out and like the message is still there, if you could have said the one line that is the whole song, I wish like he'd be so much better if he just like learned when not to talk. That's a whole song.
Right. Even if Danny's not intended to hear it,
Yes.
Jim says that to us, the author.
You get to do
Danny looks to him and says, "What'd you say?" And he's like, "Nothing. Never mind." And you go on with the scene, and you don't have to have that song. The song's
you don't
gone.
have to have the song.
The
Because
song's
the song
gone.
doesn't do really
It doesn't do
anything
anything,
else.
and it's not funny, and it's
And we shouldn't just throw songs in just because they're funny.
no.
Unless that means something. Like, of course, like,
yeah.
it's like
Then it's not just
supposed
because
to
it's
like
funny.
deepen the
Relationship.
here's the thing.
No.
I think this was the interesting thing about that storyline should have been more about their relationship, and that was the least
Short shrift, for sure. Because I mean, it was really unclear whether there was a relationship or what the nature was until he's on the trial and they ask him, "Did you have sexual relationships?" and with him, and he's like, "Well, he wasn't a child then." I'm like, "Oh, so they were having sex." Oh,
but what does that mean otherwise? Like,
what was the relationship like? Because I was like, I was confused. I thought they were just like employer employee, maybe like live-in employee. I don't know.
And maybe like Danny would flirt with him
because we see some of that he's like flirting a little bit, and I was like, oh, is he just like a straight man that's like taking advantage of it? He gets drunk and like falls down on his lap, and he's like, "Let's get you to bed," and takes him to bed. But like, what is this?
I'm not sure like that whole thing was set up well enough for me to be like, I understand that there's this relationship that he's afraid to like either of them are really afraid to like
let go of
or go
leave.
Into.
Yeah.
Like, no, like either way.
Right. To go either way with it. Yeah.
Like
I don't want to lean in or lean out. And I mean, the one
that tension is the interesting, for me, that storyline is about that tension.
Yes.
Between like, there's an age difference. There's like,
I mean, but and that's everything of Act One. That's the thing that culminates in
it's their
the end of Act One.
And the thing that they can't
reconcile. Yeah.
And that's what ends up in this tragedy.
Yeah. So
why aren't we like, I guess like I was confused because like immediately when Danny comes in, he's like, this is my worker. He comes in, he's like cool and attractive and sexy and everyone's like, ooh. And they like start to make little jokes about him. And Jim was like, hey, he's like one of the best workers I've ever had.
Yeah.
Starts off really strong.
Yeah.
Defending him.
Mm-hmm.
And for the rest of the show, just talks shit.
Yep. Yeah.
Never again does he say a positive thing until like literally the voodoo priestess like begs him to.
Right.
And I wish like
actually
like, have him complain about him first, if that's it. Or like it has to be either way.
Yeah.
Like we have to see like some very strong.
I mean, I think that's part of one of the mistakes they made with that relationship was in line with some of the other things we've talked about. But it's like the action being off stage, where it's like we don't even get to see Danny make that declaration back that it's like, oh, I like you. He's like, hey, remember when I bailed you out of jail that time before? What did you say to me? It's like, what a lazy way to bring this up. That you're like, hey, that thing you said over there, say it again here in front of everyone. He says, oh, I told you that I would have,
Flashback. It's a musical that is like totally outside. Like, let us live it. If you want that to be when we get it, like,
or give us a situation that he actually says it to him.
That's fine. If
they're
trying to be more
abstract with our collage, then yeah, give us a flashback. Or
more faithful to the structure of how the story breaks down in the original storyline.
Yeah.
If they're like, this is the way the information is parsed out.
Yeah.
So we want to learn this information about their past at this moment.
Sure.
You can flashback, you can give it to us in a different way. You can have it so like you can fudge it so like we have more interaction between Ghost Danny and Jim.
Yeah.
Like actual interaction.
Yeah.
Like there's just ways to do it in which is active now. Not like, what's that thing from back then? Yeah, that's
real stupid and lazy. That's like a bad way to do that. And especially if it's not showing us anything. Because it's like, it would have been one thing if he's like, I'm not going to repeat it because there's people here. Now we learn something about the relationship. And then later on when he's drunk and sits down in Jim's lap, now you have an opportunity for him to say it and for us to see it. You actually get right now in our face. And so there's like those, there's like these moments
opportunities
that were these missed opportunities. I'm like, as you say that, it's like they're so close to some things here that I just like need some things to adjust.
And the thing is, like, I get the choice that, like, I'm happy for the choice, or like if it's a real life, we're looking at, you know, a gay man in the South in the Reagan era.
Yeah.
Which also is like, thank God it's not also
about
HIV.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that would have been way too much.
Too much. I'm glad that that's not a thing.
Yeah.
It didn't inform the plot.
Right.
But like, I am happy that this character is like, I'm not even considering this relationship.
Yeah.
Like I can't. I am old. I am gay. This is young. Like, yes, things happen in dark shadows.
Yeah.
Like, that's because like, this is a piece of it that I'm like, I want to be true to what the queer signaling is and what the queer experience looks like.
Yeah.
In that time period.
Right.
And not code it to
today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which for especially the queer experiences, especially at the bar, I was like, I think you are coding it a little bit. You are using language and you are using like a couple different elements that are more contemporary.
Yeah.
And I think I would find it more interesting if we saw some more of those like veiled layers.
Yeah.
And like we're never talking out in the open about these things.
Yeah.
If like gay men had like historically everywhere have like always found ways to sneak off into the shadows and have especially sexual interactions with each other.
Yeah.
When they are like, nothing else about their lives would appear different to other people.
Right.
And that is like, as a gay person, that is like, was actually very normal at the time.
Yeah.
And
watching a story that's taking place in the 80s in Savannah, that would be prominent.
In that, like, plenty of closeted gay men would be having sexual relationships with other gay men of lots of different ages, like indiscriminately, because like you found who you could, essentially,
right.
And not even considered spinning it into this is not Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah.
Brokeback Mountain is like this very special, like, Brokeback Mountain works because one character is trying to push past that.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you're seeing that tension so clearly in Brokeback Mountain.
Right.
In a way that, like, this one has all the elements.
Yeah.
But, like, we're not allowing that character. It feels like you're almost trying to, like, weave something in that maybe wasn't there. Like, maybe there was, like, a hope from both of them. Maybe there was, like, a desire for some sort of relationship or some stronger relationship.
Yeah.
But like, I understand that, like, he would mostly be like, this is not a thing, guys.
Yeah.
This is not a thing.
Right.
And like, to be caught up at the trial with the question about having sex, I wish there was more of an element of like, yes, he's like, I don't want to be seen as a child molester.
Right.
Certainly, because he was like a younger person. There's an age difference, even though he was an adult.
Right.
That is clearly like still something very in our minds today, especially, that we feel like very weird about older men with especially like very fresh adults.
Yeah. Still
feels weird.
Yeah.
And I rightly so. I think that
What's the difference between a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old? Nothing. Right. Legality. But yeah,
like,
we
there's
do.
An
we have there's an
ickiness
ick factor here.
Like somebody who's like 20, 30 years older. What are the implications?
Yeah.
And for a gay man with no other prospects in either direction,
right,
there is something that like brought larger age groups together in a way that like can still feel icky to us, but also is like that's just kind of the truth of what was happening,
right? Yeah,
and it feels like a missed opportunity to kind of like live in that space, because that is the story and the tension in that storyline that I find interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, there's like gay man versus the South,
sure,
and new versus old ideas. They're clearly present, but something about like, I don't know, like we don't actually get to like all of Jim's struggles are like we're singing about something else, and he has like weird asides within soliloquies of songs, where he's already talking to us, and then he kind of like does an aside in an aside essentially, and it's like, I had a terrible past, and you're like, why is this happening now? Just like, we know that you have a backstory,
right?
We get it that you have it, but like, let that inform something,
right?
Let that be the thing that is like informing the struggles in your life. Don't just look at us and tell us, because like we don't know what his hard life is. We just like have a little weird. I don't know if you noticed that was like one of his first songs in the first act. He's just like singing with the society ladies, and it's like da 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 da. When you've had the life I've had, you had to like do.
You have to do what you need to do.
I'm like
when you never had money, and I'm like, yeah, duh. You just said that you were new money and they're old money. You came from that. So
that's
that was
all
it.
you have to say. We get it.
Yeah, I did catch that. I wrote it down. That's so stupid.
I thought that. Like, I think, especially in the music, I think there's some, like, lazy moments.
Yeah.
And
because it's mostly there, because in the script, really, it's not like
and I'm
that.
wondering if, in the book, in the non-music dialogue, but I wonder if it got to a point where it was even more confusing, more abstract. Like, we need to put actual pieces of things back in.
Maybe.
And so there's like a couple moments that I'm like, well, is it just because they were like,
this is getting
they're
weird.
not going to understand what that is. But I don't think it's done in any sort of like, in the end, do I care about the character of Jim Williams? I don't think I do. I don't think I actually feel for him. I don't know what he's like truly grappling with.
Right.
Is it like trying to make a name for him? Is it trying to like
find love? Is it
trying to accept his identity?
Himself, right. Or through someone else, or
course,
give
like,
someone else a life that he didn't.
End,
or
it's the tension between all of those things.
Right, of course.
He actually doesn't know, like, part of it's like, he doesn't know what he's working for.
Yeah.
What does he care about? And that's like, essentially we find that out in the end. He's like, why did I even do that?
Yeah.
Do I even care to like, what am I living for now? And that's why Danny comes like
he dies,
then die. Which is like, that's interesting if that is actually his tension the whole show.
Right.
And I'm not sure I get that, except in like having to like piece it together and getting it spoon fed to me at the end.
Yeah.
Where we're like seeing little pieces. And then finally seeing at the end, he's like, I don't know what I'm living for. And I'm like, yes,
yeah, duh.
That's the point. But where was that struggle?
Right.
When was he fighting for the relationship with Danny?
Never.
Didn't see it.
Not once.
When was he like, yeah, he's fighting with the society people, but not really. Like, we do have that moment where he like has this like, I'm gonna take the power from you. You think you have the power from me, lady, and I'm gonna say that I'm never gonna sell it to you. That's like that conflict is where some of it's like there are pieces, but it's like so disparate, and just lazily like told to us in these like little moments instead of really feeling his like us, like letting us in.
Right. I mean, it feels like a morality story in this like backdrop. It's like, how do we be a good person, and what does that mean? At least that's, as I described before, it's like at least that's the through line that you're getting when you're watching like Chablis and you're watching even Corinne, where it says like, how do we actually like behave in this society as good people?
Right.
What does that mean? What does that look like?
Well, and I think like, again,
Lavelle
feels like a really nice mini arc that it's just like, it lives there. I would say like the one, she also has a moment in her like, no one wants to hire me song that literally at the end of that, she's like, oh, I noticed that the way I treated this person was the way I'm being treated now. Like literally tells
she literally
us.
tells us that, and I hate that.
And I'm like,
I was like, well, that was stupid. Yeah, we know. We know. We know that. You didn't have to sing that. That's so weird. Is that the lyric? It's very weird.
It was so on the nose that I'm like, it was really snappy and clean. Other than like, it's like her storyline is like, honestly, like that little piece, like her storyline was pretty. And like we go right from, it's literally like, she's like, I got dreams and I'm going to be in a ball. But Lady Chablis, you're too much. You can't go to that ball. Right to the ball.
Yeah.
Woohoo.
I
don't love, I get this. I don't love the song that happens at the ball. It feels like it's so long for something that's like setting the scene. Like, like it's like send her in the world to do great things, essentially.
Yeah. And you need a dad to prop you up. It was like a lot of, I'm like, who are you even? Like, what is this?
It just didn't quite work.
It was too long
for
at the
me.
very least.
It was so long. And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
That was one of the songs that I'm like, I'm a little bored. I'm a little bored by this. And I'm like, I get that you're making a vibe, but like I could have not listened to a word of what was being said during the song, and still nothing would have changed.
Nothing would have changed. Yeah.
I certainly don't remember.
It did not contribute,
except for like, it was like raise her up, like something like that. It was like, which is like, again, it's like an interesting sentiment to like set her up for like failure.
Yeah.
You can do anything that anyone else can do, and like for that to be dashed.
Right. Yeah.
But like it doesn't need it without
that.
Like because she has the full like the thing is I do like this other like her other song where she like in Act 2 she's like, I just graduated and I have this like I'm ready to do my goal.
I know how to clap on 1 and 3. I can conform with everyone. I can clap on 1 and 3. I can clap on 1 and 3. And then it's like, you know what? I'm not going to clap on 1 and 3 anymore.
They spoon fed that a little bit to us at the end. Again, like it was so that one's so like when they said clap on 1 and 3, I'm like, love that.
That's very cute.
That's great.
Yeah.
And to end on I'm going to clap on 2 and 4 without like, but like there is like a moment where she like, I think they are literally like, I'm not going to do this for them anymore. I'm not going to clap like the way people like, it's like, it's like almost.
Well, it's almost too soon. Like I actually needed a reprise later after you decide to work with Lady Chablis. Now you can clap on 2 and 4. Cause like you did it in the song. I'm like, why did all of it happen in this song? Like, why didn't we see you have a transformation with someone else, not just like alone? Which is like maybe part of the big problem with this show. It's like so many transformations just happening internally on their own, and they've just talked. They talk us through their transformation instead of us actually like seeing it happen.
It's like sort of my issue with Into the Woods, but Into the Woods at least is like this is a storybook, so it makes sense that they're telling their story.
Yeah.
Like that's like. And of course, this is a book. We're talking about a book. So this like you were doing some, but like it bothers me in Into the Woods, and it bothers me here.
Yeah, and well, I think part of the maybe what's kind of getting in the way is this collage situation, and not that I don't want it to work, but there is like we really have to be more choosy what we decide to like put on our collage. It has to like. We're doing so many things where if you are already going to make the audience a character and you're going to have all of these different kind of fourth wall breakages and you're doing all of these different conventions to get us from one place to another and having us have our two main protagonists talk to each other, but only in outside of time. We need to ground somehow into like the convention. So it's like instead of we're also telling stories, just like from here, and we're also doing scenes, and we're also doing inner thoughts. And so you kind of have to like pare some of those down because you've already decided that we are a writer. That was already huge in my book. In like, I have never been to a play where I've been told, you're now a character in this world and you're doing this thing and I have something I want from you. Yeah. I want to win this book, which I want to get to that before we get to our ratings. We're running out of time here in the studio, but I'm already, this narrative device is so specific that you need to really commit to it. Yeah. And if you're also going to do all these other things, you're going to confuse it and you're going to make me wonder why I'm even part of this.
Sure. Yes. And I guess like my point with Corinne is that for me, it felt like I was like, yeah, I see the beginning and the end of the song. She like goes through the full thing and she's ready for the next moment with Lady Chablis. Yeah. We like, it is like just enough to see like her full little arc of like hopes up, dashed. Yeah. We see it. We watch it happen. Yeah. It's active. Right. Like she does it during the song. She's dashed and like we see her change. Great. It's like pretty succinct. Yeah. And then she like, we don't have to see her until Lady Chablis is like, hey, you want to come do this with me? And like literally brought from, I love this. She's like, I'm ready to go. Like, I'm ready to like, and then like is taken off by the dancer. She's like, where are you taking me? And then like funny. Bringing essentially like, we don't see her for a while, but like right to Lady Chablis to be like, please do this with me. And she's like, but I was horrible to you. I don't even know if I could do this. And she's like, we're going to like, we're going to have a moment. Yeah. Now, which is like, I think because like we saw the very clear full story arc in very small moments. Yeah. And it could have even been shorter moments for me. Mm-hmm. Like, I think we had all we needed to have this like very beautiful, powerful moment. Yeah. Where Lady Chablis is like, it doesn't matter what happened. Yeah. You've learned, you've grown. And like now I'm going to like continue to like give my wisdom to you. Yeah. And it is so like, like again, feels like you are making this her show. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I'm like, I all of a sudden care deeply about Lavelle. Yeah. And we didn't give that treatment to Jim. We didn't give that treatment to Jim. Yeah. And I think that actually speaks, there's like the missed opportunity really ultimately with the author role. Okay. Let's talk about that specifically. Because we have, as the audience, I am now a character and they want something from me. And it becomes clear a little bit later that there is a competition that they're kind of, Jim and Lady Chablis are competing to see kind of whose story is this going to be. Yeah. And that doesn't become clear until later. It's like, I end up do it at the beginning. A little bit. Especially with Lady Chablis. Lady Chablis is like very clearly like, I'm going to take the story. And I kind of have an issue with the opening because it's like, I need it to be, that is a moment that I do need to be a little bit more apparent where it's like, actually, this is going to be my story and Lady Chablis should just be the narrator of all of it. I don't want Jim narrating nothing. Lady Chablis is our way into Jim. Something about how they interact or how she feels about it could get us to care about him, right? Yes. And well, I like the thing is like I think it is a missed opportunity to really look at the mirrored queer experiences. Yeah. I know maybe it's not in the story, but let them have a conversation together. I don't know. Like there's them meet at the bar, have them meet like in the shadows meet outside of time. Like if they never actually in real life ever met, like that's fine. We've already established that absolutely. As a convention that you can not do it, but it's just like the using us to kind of like bounce back and forth between things, between storylines is like a really
strong choice to make, and they just didn't like use it all the way because they gave us these really obvious, these are my thoughts. They gave us uneven narration where like Jim is narrating his own story, and it's like just not as interesting because we don't know, as you say, what he wants. And I think really the opening of the show kind of undermines so much of it. Either they need to be much shorter, because I do like getting the introduction to the cemetery, but it was just like way too long. The like "It's a Good Place to Die" song is just like, I don't know what's happening. And what I wanted the show to just start when we're in the house and the ladies walk in and they're like,
here's the thing. It's like, I don't mind if you want to set the tone. I actually I think this is a really interesting show with an interesting intro.
Yeah.
With an interesting opening where I'm like, oh, the first thing we see isn't a number, isn't an overture, isn't a big dance number.
Yeah.
It gets there. But like, we start with...
I really liked the voodoo thing.
We started with the voodoo.
I love
started
that.
with some
movement.
Movement and words.
Really obscure, really interesting.
I would love if you're trying to like whoosh us into the world, give us a little something, absolutely start like that. It's funny, I wrote down, am I disappointed that it broke into song?
I was.
I did.
I was very disappointed.
And like, the song was like, well, it was fine, but it was like very, very, it was almost like cliche ragtime.
Yeah.
I was like, this is almost too much. I'm like, did you just like, I mean, he's done Parade. He's like written this was a reject song from Parade,
which
absolutely could be the case. But I'm like, like ragtime has a very specific sound, so it's gonna sound, but like then you need to like break away just a little bit, for it not to, especially after doing something kind of unique for a musical.
Yeah, really interesting.
And then, like, I think you're right. If it had cut from there and gone right to...
We have Jim in his office talking to the author. Oh, I'm so glad you came. I'm so glad I was able to catch you, instead of those bozos over there who then break in.
If the voodoo priestess, like, made it clear that she's, like, inviting us or something.
Yeah.
Like, give us a little bit, like...
We're now in the story.
Been brought, like, this is part of the...
Fascinating.
The culture and the magic of it. Like, we've been brought into it in this way, in like a very magical, non-real world. Then we're interacting even on more levels.
Yeah, and then let him actually host us in his home.
Yeah,
not at the cemetery. Host us in your home.
Not
there's just there were so many things. There were so many things that they could have done that he did in the cemetery. That just do some select parts of that in the office just before all the ladies walk in, and then like that would have fixed the beginning for me. It still would have.
Is the cemetery the Garden of Good and Evil?
Yes. Maybe. I don't know.
Do we know?
I don't know.
We don't. So I was like, oh, like literally my first thought when they were singing like this is a good place to die. I'm like, oh, are we going to see a bunch of dead people's stories? Is this going to be like a fun little, we're going to talk to these other people in these other graves?
That would have been fun, and they didn't do that.
Of course, but that wasn't the show.
Sure.
But that's like, I didn't know anything about the show. So I'm like, that's an interesting, if that's what they were doing, then that's a fine intro. If we're in the cemetery and we're going around being like, this person's story is interesting, and we're like hopping around time periods, and like I thought maybe like we're seeing things all happening in the same garden that I was like happening over. Like, that's what that first song is telling me.
Right.
And it didn't happen. So I could cut that first whole thing and start with some of the narration of it.
Yeah.
And like, we can have moments where we're like out of it and the whole town is coming and talking and doing this. But yeah.
Because especially if we're like simulating interviews with an author, it's just like there were so many things that could have been like that.
Yeah.
Because I liked being involved. It just didn't completely win.
I agree. Okay. So I think we have to
move on to our rating.
To our ratings. Okay. So story.
I think
this is tricky.
It is very tricky. I think it's an interesting story. I like the story bit. like the actual structure of it, I think is excellent. I'm going to give it a 4.5.
Okay. I'll give it a 4 only because I was left being like, I'm not sure what the story is.
Sure.
I liked the story and I thought like the sequence of events was clear.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the story is.
Sure.
And like upon reflection, I think it was like less plot, more other things than plot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna go
All right.
4 because I liked it.
Yeah. Technical. They executed a lot of things really well,
tricky.
but I think I'll do a 3. Just
Okay.
it's just not. It's like not fully cooked, and it's like so close, and it's the issues that I end up having story wise are all to do with the technical things that happen, and just like a lot of them are good. That's the thing. I was like, I don't want to go lower than that, you know?
Yeah. I'm gonna give it a 3.5. So a little bit, just because like I think there were so many very strong technical elements, and some like great performances, and some great choices of technical elements.
Yeah.
There were, and some clearly missed opportunities in other places. It's like almost like it's not like one doesn't, they're like fighting against each other. So like they're really like pushing against each other. And I think there was some very strong technical elements and some confusing technical elements. So,
right. Rewatch value. 5. I have to give it a 5, I think.
I'm going to give it a 4.5 only because I want it to be updated.
And well, I guess that's why I would give it a 5. So I'm like, I want to go back and see like what are they
Sure.
if in the event. I guess it's a 5 if it's actual preview that are making adjustments, and I will see something new.
If someone tells me it is the same story again, I might not.
I might not say that. Yeah, might not want to do that.
And if it doesn't have somebody that I know is as good as J. Harrison Ghee, I don't know if I would want to see it.
Yeah,
I am interested. I would. Like it's still pretty high. 4.5 is still. I would probably still rewatch it. It's just like there are little elements that I'm like, I'm not sure. Like I would choose not to in many situations. I would mostly tell people to go. It is very interesting. I think it should go to Broadway. Hopefully with at least some minimal changes. But even
like workshop it there too.
I hope
just like,
so.
Yeah.
But like it's not horrible.
No,
I've seen much worse.
Oh yeah.
Get there. Okay.
Yes.
So that's
they're full. Ratings. Superlatives.
So Oscar moment. I really do want to give it to Sierra Boggess. She has a couple like really great moments. She sells me with everything in
this. She's so good. And it's just so rare to see her in something silly like that too. Like that was like,
I mean, from what I saw her in Little Mermaid, and she's very silly in that. Like,
is it very silly? Wow,
she's pretty silly.
Okay, well, I don't know, but it's just like cute. Like I've seen her is like Christine Daae in Phantom. She just really sold me. She's like so comedic and villain. At least forces of antagonism. Like, it's just
but so well rounded. Like not
a bad, just a force of antagonism for this story.
And like singing so beautifully.
Yes.
And some really ugly ideas.
Yeah.
I think they found that tension absolutely perfect, especially with her stuff. And there was one song in particular where I'm like, that was it. That was everything. It was like
the one where she is it the one where she like sings about ruining the Christmas party, where she's like, we're gonna do the movie. And
no, I think it's like when she's talking about like it being her house.
Like
she's like, there's something like very sweet. And it's like
she loves that house.
She loves it, and it's so reverent, and it's like this beautiful, like there's a little bit of a she has a little bit of that in all of her like this like call to arms.
Yeah. It's a march. There's like a Confederate march in every single one of them.
And a sweetness, but like without telling us that it was sinister, feeling it to be sinister.
Yeah.
I think it's like her stuff was like some of my favorite music.
Yeah.
And she, I think, just executes it perfectly.
Yeah.
Where she's not leaning into a caricature either way of like somebody ultra sweet and somebody ultra.
Right.
She's like, she's such a smack dab in the middle real person.
Yep.
So that's my
nice
Oscar moment.
I think my Oscar moment, I give to Lady Chablis. I mean, she was so
you're right,
freaking good. But I think just so many moments. I love the Act 2 opener,
which famously
don't really like Act 2 openers
love
usually,
Act 2 openers
because they usually don't make a difference. And this one I thought was going to be that too, but it ended up, I was like, oh my God, there's a reason why we're doing it, which was so good, because at the end of Act 1, she leaves Savannah. I was like, wait a minute, I thought this was supposed to be a story on Savannah. And then the beginning of Act 2, it's just the story of her whole tour and why she ends up going back. And I was like, that's perfect, because it was also very funny. And it gave us the story.
That was a moment where she's like, where they do, the Lady Chablis moments are the best, where they're like, yeah, we're using this connection with the audience to be like, we are literally telling you to be involved right now.
Yes.
Do these things for us. Clap your hands.
Oh my God, I loved it.
But like, did the thing that it was supposed to do. Like energize us after the intermission, but in a way that didn't like annoy me.
We sang with her. It was
She gave us stuff to do, told the story, relevant things, but not like super serious yet.
Yeah.
Like gave us like a good taper into the story. It is about the best Act 2 opener that I've maybe ever seen.
Yeah, same. That's my Oscar moment. Unearned moment.
I feel like there was like so many like weird little unearned moments. I'm
gonna give you mine.
Go.
So there is a scene where Danny and Jim, Danny and Jim get into an argument, and
I was gonna make this.
Is it a difference?
I think so.
Okay, then I'll do something else.
Yeah.
Unearned is
because I want to talk about that.
I mean, it's the moment where they're all standing in line and telling us, just like listing off the traits of someone who's bad in their book. I think that was so stupid.
Yeah.
I hated that so much.
The one we've talked about.
We've talked about it already, and I just thought that was the worst moment of the show.
Yeah. Understood. I think I'll just pick, I think what's sticking out of my brain right now is there's like one like weird little interlude where random man comes in and is like, I love injecting things into bugs.
Oh.
And I'm like, what's happening?
What is happening?
And then like essentially gets shooed off by Sierra Bogas. And I'm like, but what was that?
Yeah.
It like, I'm sure, again, very collage-y, but like.
Well, and it's giving us that evocation of like it's evoking the author interviewing people in town.
But that's not, but it's not mirrored in any other way in the show.
No. And it's like, did you leave that in? Did you intend to do this more? And that was just one that survived accidentally? Like, What is this?
I don't know. I still don't get it.
Paid to have a certain number of lines? Like, what is this?
Yeah, it's a lot. But I just felt like that there needed to be more moments like that if that was going to be in there at all.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was. I didn't get it. Still don't get it.
No. Because when Harry Met Sally moment where it's like we've got like the interlude where it's like people getting interviewed.
Perfect.
If that's what you were doing, cool. But they don't do that.
Especially that would be interesting for a couple of these little weird
things. Yeah. And I'm like, were we waiting for someone to make a change? Is that why you needed him to talk for a while? Because Sierra's coming out and she was in a different costume maybe? I don't know. But I also noticed that and hated it.
I just realized
what
we've been calling. Corinne was the girlfriend.
Oh my God. What is the...
It's Lavelle.
Oh my God, Lavelle.
I literally just like that.
We're going to just go back and we're going to be like, Lavelle.
Not just...
I'm going to say it a few times and we can splice it in. JK. Okay.
Lavella.
Lavella.
Terrible.
Oops. All right. Okay.
That was our mistake, obviously. I don't know, like in my brain, I'm like, that side character. Wait a minute. She was Corinne. That was, because I was like, maybe if they had given her a weird, because that character was not
used well enough. No.
Anyway, so
another superlative.
Worst technical moment.
My God. Okay, you go.
at the end of the show, there's like they talk about this house throughout the show, and
His house.
it's like smaller in scale, but it's the back is it's perspective
There's like a backdrop of the house.
because it's like looming and we see it, and sometimes like when lights
like
are
see
on,
through
we see the windows have
Yeah.
lights on. Very interesting. Sometimes like it like really like has some interest. Like it's there. It's always there. It's interesting. At the end, once he dies, him and Jim and Danny walking back towards the house, and I'm like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? You're getting so close to that house. Clearly taller than the house in the back." And
then they like pose
on it?
next to it, and I'm like,
no,
was a script
thank
supposed
you.
to come down? Like, did something not happen, or what is going on?
It was so silly.
It was so stupid to have these two men just like walk up to they're practically as tall as this house that is like built to appear as a huge mansion in the distance.
Yes. And
they walk up right to it. I'm like, what are you
my
doing?
instinct was, they're huge. Just like I could, like
They're giants.
They're giants. It's just, it just felt so silly, and I'm like, that's just a.
Oh
don't
my God,
do that.
I forgot
Don't make
about
that. Choice.
that.
But you do yours.
Okay, so
I know exactly what you were gonna say.
Jim and Danny have a fight, and Danny, he's like acting out, and he's gonna go, storm out, and he's like, oh, you're gonna break something, and he like takes a vase off this table and like slams it down on the desk. Presumably shattered, but the way that it ended up happening was he ended up just kind of like picking it up and just kind of like rolling it like dice onto the table, because he just placed it down, because the thing just kind of like
falls apart,
fall apart, and then there's like
a little dinky sound
that's like a little bit like a sound effect that like doesn't match up,
doesn't quite match.
And I was like, what just happened?
Was that a mistake?
And it was just like so funny. Like we all laughed when it happened, because it looked so weird to have him just like pick up this vase and basically just like put it back down and have it just like shatter. And I'm wondering, like, something must have gone wrong. Like it's like a rigged prop piece that just like wasn't put together well, and he picked it up. I'm imagining he picked it up and realized it was like precarious and was going to fall apart, so he just like put it back down before it fell apart in his hand. Something like that happened, but it looked so stupid.
So dumb.
And it was supposed to be this big moment where he breaks this Taj Mahal pottery. And then later they mention it where he's like talking to Corinne, who we've now corrected. He's talking to Corinne. He's like, hey, did you see me break that vase? And we're like, Colin's like, yeah, we all saw it. We all saw you break that vase. That was so freaking weird.
Don't talk about it.
It was very funny and really unfortunate.
Yeah. Any other superlatives?
I don't.
Best like Southern euphemism.
Was there one? I don't
Florence
remember
Nightingale
anything.
That's a euphemism.
Yeah, but I don't know.
There was lots of things like that.
I don't know if I can recall any. I would. I mean, as a musical, be like best song, but I don't remember anything.
I said my best song.
I mean, I guess
there's some interesting songs.
I liked the Voodoo Priestess.
Yeah,
singing Voodoo was Priestess. Great. I don't know. I think I'm done.
Great. Love to hear it.
I'm Pavi Prochko. And remember, if you've gone through all this work to make your audience a character, make sure you use them.
And I'm Colin Funk. And remember, if you're gonna be talking about gay people in the 80s, just like have them fool around in the shadows. Like, what is that so much to ask?
Glory holes. Bye.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Two Grooms, One Plot, a Pavitas Productions project, hosted by Colin Funk and Pavi Prochko. This podcast was produced by Chicago Podcast Studio. Our opening cartoon was created by Gloriu, and our theme song was composed by me, Pavi Prochko. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite listening platform. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Two Grooms, One Plot for updates on new episodes and behind-the-scenes content. If you have any feedback, comments, concerns, or kudos, you can email us at twogroomsoneplot@gmail.com. Please rate and review us wherever you can. It would help us out a bunch. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.